making a video. The title of today's video is going to be 5 things that you need to know about yachting. I've got 5 things that I've written down as my 5 things that I think that you need to know about yachting. I've been in yachting now for 2 years. I started out just at the end of, or at the beginning rather. I started out just at the beginning of COVID, and I have been doing yachting for 2 years now, working on a private / charter motor yacht. On this boat that I've been working on now, I have done, I think it's 4 or 5 seasons. I've gone to the Caribbean, the Bahamas, the Mediterranean, New England here in USA, and I've spent a lot of time in Florida. I've got quite a lot of experience starting from the ground and working my way not that far up, but gaining experience. In my 2 years in yachting, I've only been on one boat, so that's where I'll be drawing my knowledge from, is my 2 years working on a 70-meter private charter motor yacht. So let's get straight into it. The first thing that I think you need to know about yachting is that yachting is not a life of luxury. Sure, there are some elements of the job that are quite luxurious, but one of the common misconceptions that a lot of people have, and I definitely had, is that I'm going to be living this super luxury lifestyle, that my job is going to be similar or even in the same realm as the people that are actually paying for the experience of being on the yacht. There's definitely things that are, there's some luxury aspects to the profession. We get to go to some incredible places, we get to live on these incredible super yachts. Other than that, the job itself is really, it's pretty far removed from luxury. The reality is that being in yachting is, it's a blue collar job, essentially. You're going to be doing, lots of nitty-gritty jobs. You're going to be down on your hands and knees scrubbing teak. You're going to be doing washdowns. You're going to be, cleaning bilges out. You're going to be scraping rust out of tiny nooks and crannies of the boat. You're going to be cleaning up dog shit. You're going to be cleaning up throw up. These things you don't think about, or I never thought about before I started yachting. If you are coming into the world of yachting or thinking about starting a career in yachting, is that you should know that whilst there's definitely parts of the job that allow you a window into the lifestyle of the rich and famous, your job, especially when you're starting out, is going to be very far removed from that. So that's my first thing that you need to know about yachting. For our second thing that you need to know about yachting is that the hours are long. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I can only draw from my own experiences. I'm on a private charter boat. What that means is that the boat is privately owned, but it's also available for charter, so people can come out and essentially rent the boat for a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever. For some people it's different. Some boats are private only, which means that it's only the owners using the boat. Hours of work can change depending on what kind of boat you work on. But when I say hours are long, when you're on charter, you're working around the clock. We're lucky enough to get some time off during the day to relax a little bit. We get, usually, depending on how busy we are, we'll get a 2-hour break during the day, and we will have 9 hours of continuous rest throughout the night. But the rest of the time, you're on your feet, you're working. And 9 hours continuous rest might sound like a lot, because they say you only need 8 hours of rest to get a full night's sleep, but you have to take into account 9 hours of rest. You still need to get your shower done at night. You still need to, make sure that you're eating. You need to wake up before work. You need to do your morning routine if you have a morning routine. I like to be up an hour before I have to work, so I have time to wake up, get breakfast in me. I'll make sure that I'm presentable and ready for the day so that I can be around guests and that I can do my job properly. So really, when you're on charter, charters can be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks long. You're working around the clock. You have 2 hours in the day where you can unwind a little bit, read a book, watch a movie or something, but the rest of the time you're working, and those 9 hours continuous rest, you need to get those in. You need to get to sleep. You need to make sure you're getting good quality of sleep, because the days are long and the days are demanding. I remember when I started in yachting, I heard people saying, that there's a week-long charter coming up, and I was like, oh, a week? What's the big deal? It's just a week. I've had some of the longest weeks of my life on charter where the days just feel like you've never experienced such a long week before in your life, and you're just hoping that at the end of the week it's going to be worth it, which thankfully for me, a lot of the times on the boat that I'm working on, it has been worth it, and we've been rewarded with some very generous tips. That being said, stuff like your mental health can take a knock. You know, if you're not sleeping right, it can have an effect on you. You can start getting cranky, but you have to keep presentable for guests, you have to keep a smile on your face, you have to be professional. The deck department will have what's called a night shift, and what that means is that one person needs to be awake and alert at all times in case the vessel drags anchor, or there's a fire or anything like that. So there's always one person that's awake around the clock, and that's the night person. If you get put on night person, your whole sleep schedule switches 180, and you're working, you're waking up at 4 in the afternoon, only going to sleep 7 in the morning. That's a full switch. Your body's circadian rhythm will respond in an adverse way to that, and you need to figure out a way to overcome it, get through it. I've had sometimes where it's 2 weeks in a row of just nights, and you see maybe 2 hours of daylight, and then you're working throughout the night while everyone else is sleeping. And the isolation, the long hours, stuff like that, it can get to you. That being said, long hours does not only refer to charter time. The nature of yachting means that you live with your co-workers. You are constantly surrounded by your superiors, your boss, your managers. You're constantly surrounded by your co-workers. And in that sense, you may be off the clock and the working day may come to an end, but you are constantly with your co-workers, and you have to remain professional around the clock, even when the working day is done. So in that sense, hours can get really long. You need to take time for yourself to get away from the boat, make time for your own mental health. That's another thing that I'd put under the category of long hours, is technically speaking. At the end of the day, you're not going home, you're not leaving your place of work and going back to your house. You stay at work, and then you're living with the people that you work with. Number 3. Okay, so for number 3, we have friends and family. And something that you need to know about yachting is that in order to get a job in yachting, oftentimes you're going to have to get up and move to another country to look for work. If you get work, the boat is going to be traveling around the world. It's going to be docked in perhaps a different country from where you were born or where your friends and family live. This could be a deal breaker for you if your support structure strongly relies on your close friends and your relatives and your family. Yachting is going to take you away from that. You're going to meet great people, you're going to make friends, your boat's going to become like your family, but at the end of the day, you're going to be spending a lot of time away from some of your closest friends, from your family members, your mom, your dad, your cousin, your gran, whoever. You're going to be spending a lot of time away from them. This lifestyle of traveling and not necessarily being in one place for an extended period of time is going to mean that you're going to spend a lot of time away from friends and family. And that can mean stuff like missing birthdays, missing Christmas, not being home for New Year's, Thanksgiving. I've spent the last 2 Christmases on charter with guests on board, or preparing for guests to come on board. And that's the reality of yachting, is that you're going to be missing out on some crucial key life events. I've missed out on friends' weddings, and it's stuff like that that you need to think about, and that you should know if you're looking to get yourself into yachting, is that is definitely a factor. You will get your time off, but sometimes, unless you're prepared to leave your job for an event or for a special occasion, or put aside leave time, sometimes it's not even possible, because you got a trip coming up that you may have to make those sorts of sacrifices, and for some people it's not worth it. So that's number 3, and that's a big one to know, is that it comes with some sacrifices. Number four, I've put down interpersonal relationships are the hardest part of the job. This is a big one, and I think it's really true. I mentioned in number 1 that some of the jobs that we have to do in yachting are pretty nitty gritty. Sometimes it's really tough, physically demanding job. But at the end of the day, I believe that the thing that you're getting paid for is your ability to manage your interpersonal relationships. In yachting, you are living on board with your co-workers around the clock. You're on top of each other, sharing living spaces, your co-workers. When I started in yachting, I was so worried that I was gonna, scratch the paint or do something to ruin this incredible, beautiful luxury boat. And after working on the boat for a few months, I noticed people make little mess ups here and there in maintenance. And I realized that there's not a single thing on a boat, or very few things that you can do on a boat, that you can mess up so badly that you can't fix. Everything has a fix. If you mess up some paint, you learn how to do paint touch-ups, fix-ups. If you mess up some varnish, you learn how to fix that. You learn how to fix pretty much everything. That's your job working on deck, is repairs and maintenance. So you learn that almost everything is fixable. One of the things that you can mess up so badly that you can't fix is your reputation and the way that you interact with other people. So that is the most important thing, the way that you manage your relationships and the way that you conduct yourself, because yachting is a small world and the industry's tight knit, and if you start messing up and you start getting into people's bad books and doing some shady stuff in your interpersonal relationships, that word's going to spread and you're going to have a tough time in the industry, and you're going to have a tough time finding work. And not only that, but you're going to have a tough time finding work on any decent boat. There's definitely times, on trip or in day-to-day working environment where someone's getting on your nerves and, you want to lash out at them. You have to keep your interpersonal relationships in check. One of the things that takes a bit of time to get used to is the hierarchy on board a yacht. There's different levels of chain of command, starting at the captain, working down to the officers, and then bosun and into the deck. And one of the things that you have to be able to do is respect that hierarchy, and that sometimes you may be put in a situation where someone outranks you. You don't necessarily respect them, or you may think you can do a better job than them, but at the end of the day, they've been put in their position and they outrank you for a reason, be it time in the industry or certification or a ticket they may hold, anything like that. Mouthing off at someone that outranks you, in my experience, doesn't ever really end well. So you have to learn to hold your tongue in those sorts of situations. Another thing that goes hand in hand with that hierarchy situation is sort of like the social orders, popularity, whatever you want to call it. And something you have to get used to is that sometimes the person that's the most popular may not always hold the highest ranking, but the ranking plays a part in the popularity kind of thing. So people are going to try curry favor with people that are higher up than they are on the hierarchy, and it's kind of like a little bit of a social game, which I guess is what makes shows like Below Deck so appealing, is because there's the social game element to the world of yachting. I try be friends with your co-workers, but at the end of the day, they are still your co-workers, and you do still have to work with them, and there is a hierarchy in place. So that's number 4, and it's managing your interpersonal relationships. And it's one of the things you need to know if you're looking to get into yachting, is that it's one of the most difficult and most important parts of the job. My 5th and final thing that you need to know about yachting is that it is an incredible job. It is an incredible job. It's an incredible lifestyle. In my 2 years in the industry, it has given me so many rich life experiences. It's taken me from someone who is somewhat well-traveled to someone who is very well-traveled. It's given me some incredible experiences that I could not think of acquiring any other way. I've crossed the Atlantic Ocean because of this job. I have traveled to places that I would never have traveled to otherwise, to do things that you don't get to do in any other job. Sometimes it's the best, sometimes it's the worst. It's an absolute roller coaster of emotions. Sometimes you think, why on earth am I doing this? I want to go work in a supermarket, anything else other than this. And other times you just on the highest highs, and it's really easy going. It goes from being so stressed out that you would like to work at a supermarket or any other job, to being so relaxed, kicking back and spending 2 hours waiting on the most beautiful beach you've ever been to in your entire life for guests. That's the 5th and final thing, is that if you're thinking about getting into yachting or you'd like to experience it, definitely give it a try, especially if you're young, It's a great way to get out there and experience the world and to see a completely different side of life that you may never get the opportunity to experience otherwise. Get a window into this crazy, ridiculous luxury lifestyle of the rich and famous. It's been such an incredible growth experience for me. I would recommend it to anyone. And yeah, if you're thinking about it, definitely put yourself uh, out there, put yourself out of your comfort zone a bit, and uh, definitely do it. So yeah, that is my 5 things.